Fit in 10 Nation, it is day 9 of the Fit in 10 Challenge, day 9. And I have asked you guys to give me your feedback. You gotta go to www.trainonme.com/fit-in-10 check-in, I believe is the link. I sent you the link, or I put it up in Slack. So I also put it in your email that has all your numbers as well, right? Pretty sure I put it in that email. So the link is there. Just click on it, fill it out. It takes like 2 minutes to do, okay? Maybe 5 minutes. Fill it out, put in any questions you have, and I will get to them, okay? All right, so I want to talk about carbohydrates. Okay, another macronutrient. So we talked a little bit about protein a few days ago. I think it was 3 days ago. And so tonight, I'm going to talk about carbohydrates, all right? So this is often regarded as a necessary macronutrient, but in fact, it's the only non-necessary macronutrient. Now, I'm not saying that it doesn't carry any value, because it can certainly, but it's not essential. Okay, fat and protein are essential. Carbohydrates are not. And so most people will say, well, you need glucose in your diet, and your brain runs off glucose. And this is true, but you can teach your body to run off ketones, and there seems to be a lot of evidence out there that it's healthier over time for the brain to run off ketones, and apparently if you have less glucose running through your bloodstream on a sort of ongoing basis, you lessen your chances of so basically if there's less glucose load, okay, i.e. you're not eating as much carbohydrates. This seems to be healthier for your entire neurological system, and is supposed to help prevent neurological diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia and seizures. In fact, there are, I don't think this covers every kind of seizure, but there are numerous types of epilepsy, or types of seizures that people go through, and one of the remedies for some of these seizures is actually a ketogenic diet. So it's kind of interesting. And I know of cases where people have suffered, like, they'll have over 100 seizures per day, and they go on a ketogenic diet and the seizures are gone. So anyway, interesting to note, although I don't want to sound like a zealot here, okay, because the reality is I think that there's really, this is really a complex and multifaceted type thing where I think some people do really well with carbohydrates and others don't, to be honest with you. And this is, just based on genetic heritage and also possibly the way you were raised and the way you were fed from the early onset of life. So, but I will always encourage everybody to try to eat a reasonably balanced diet. When I say balanced, I mean, getting some carbohydrates, some fat, and usually those two things are not really an issue. It's usually protein that people have a pretty low amount on. So usually encourage more protein. So, for this challenge that I'm running right now, I've actually started you guys on the highest amount of carbohydrates ever. And the reason I did that is because most people have a hard time with getting in all that protein. So, right now 25% of your calories are protein, and usually I would start you off by like 33%. So, but it's generally too much. So, ultimately, and you've heard me say this before, or you should have heard me say this before because I've mentioned it several times. The two major secrets to continued weight loss, essentially in a very simplistic view, is getting enough protein and then, having a certain caloric limitation. Okay, so enough protein and then limiting your calories at a certain point, but not too low, right? And we're going to talk about why this can be an issue. So I always start clients with more energy. then less energy, because we want the body to be as energy inefficient as possible. We want the body to chew through as much energy as it can. I mean, that allows for several things. One, it allows for us to have more food, which is important, but also two, you will eventually plateau. And when you plateau, you need to have something to work with. If you're falling super low calories and you plateau, what do you do next? Like, what do you take food away from little food, right? So you always want it to be thinking long term. And I can see I've digressed. So for carbohydrates, they are non-essential. So there's essentially like, I mean, there are a decent number, maybe 4 or 5 different categories of carbohydrates that I can list. But let's just keep it very simple for tonight's explanation and tell you. And I'll tell you this: so many thoughts run through my mind. I just can't. My mouth can't keep up with them. You basically want to think about things like you've got simple carbohydrates and you've got complex carbohydrates. So basically, you got sugar and you got starch. Starch is essentially just chains of sugar, okay? Whereas sugar is just basically individual small chains or individual units of sugar. And then you've got things like fiber, and then you've also got sugar alcohols. And you've got things like resistant starch, which are prebiotics. So we're just going to keep it basic. Tonight we're going to talk about starch and sugars, okay? And glycemic index to a certain point. So generally speaking, foods that are not what's the word I'm looking for here? Refined, generally speaking, are going to have a lower glycemic index, which simply means they will not raise your blood sugar levels as much. So when you're eating things like lots of fruits and vegetables, generally speaking, they will not raise your blood sugars very much. However, if you have refined foods like, let's say, a white rice over a brown rice, white rice would be more refined, obviously. That's going to raise your blood sugar levels higher. And if you were in the first day of the challenge in the info session, not the info session, but the tutorial, when you start to mix fats and proteins with refined carbs, or carbs that have a higher glycemic index, carbs that raise your blood sugar levels more, these things, proteins and fats and fiber, okay, which is another kind of carbohydrate, they will lower or slow down the rate at which the sugar goes into the bloodstream. Okay, so essentially they lower the GI of the food. All right, so I'm always going to encourage you to have protein and fat and fiber if you can with each and every meal. Okay, that's one reason, by the way. So glucose is not essential, but the thing with a lot of carbohydrate-based foods, like basically all plant foods are carbohydrates for the most part. They're just mainly carbohydrate, if not all carbohydrate, aside from water. But we're just talking about calorically speaking here. All carbohydrates are not all carbohydrates, but carbohydrates generally speaking are higher in or contain mainly or mostly, or have a high amount of, I should say, phytonutrients, right? So they've got just like vitamins and minerals, and they've got other things in there like antioxidants and phytochemicals that are going to help us to stay healthier. And of course, they've got fiber. So these are all really important for your health. Okay, so carbohydrates in and of themselves, well, they're not really necessary per se. A lot of the carbohydrate sources come with many other nutrients. Okay, now are those nutrients bioavailable? Well, not always. Okay, and it depends on how certain foods are cooked, and then of course what specific foods you're eating, because different plant sources have different bioavailable measures depending on the nutrient in that food itself. So that's another topic. Okay, so carbohydrates are essentially an energy source. That's what they are. But if we're talking about fruits and vegetables, especially, they do come with a lot of phytonutrients. Okay, vitamins, minerals, phytochemicals, fiber, these types of things. Okay. Well, fiber wouldn't be a phytonutrient, but still, look, we're going to throw it in there. Okay. So, I keep it in there to give you guys some balance, to make you feel like things are normal, are not too extreme, because typically speaking, when you start to really dwindle down carbohydrates people get really kind of weirded out because, generally speaking, it's just not the Western style of diet. Western style of diet is a higher carbohydrate diet, okay? But your carbohydrates will change throughout this challenge, just a fair warning. I'm at 10 minutes already. Terrible. All right. I hope I did not confuse you on that, okay? Let's just recap for one quick second, all right? In a general sense, haven't explained carbohydrates in totality here. Just look at, you've got basically simple carbs and complex carbohydrates. You've got sugars and you've got starches. Starches are just long chains of sugar, okay? Whereas sugar are usually just individual units, or maybe they're just short chains. And they get into the bloodstream faster because they're already broken down. Because starch is a longer chain of sugar, it has to be broken down. It enters the bloodstream at a slower rate because of that, because it has to be broken down, okay? So, but carbohydrates in and of themselves just provide the body with glucose, with energy. They don't have any function in the body. They don't make up, any of the cellular type organelles or the membrane. They don't make up any tissues in your body. They don't serve as, structural foundation for hormones or enzymes or anything like that. So they're just solely an energy source. Okay? And they are non-essential. But that's not to say that they don't have some importance in your diet. Okay? As I discussed. All right, message of the day. You build yourself up over time. Not overnight. You build yourself up over time, not overnight. Things take time. Things take time. Be patient, okay? Be patient. To be honest with you, this challenge is really just a taste of what you can achieve through, years and years of doing something. But you can also make a lot of progress in 10 weeks, all right? But I do want you to be, aware and cognizant of the fact that, a lot of things take time, all right? So we need to be patient and don't expect things to happen overnight, all right? Keep working at it. Things take time, especially when we talk about grand success or success on a greater scale. It takes a lot of time, okay? So we got to just keep plugging away. I'm at 13 minutes nearly. I'm going to go now, out of here, okay? Submit, commit in this challenge, you guys, and of course, stay positive energy, and believe in yourself, and of course, always give gratitude. I'll talk to you guys all soon. Have a wonderful evening. I'll see you in class tomorrow at 7 p.m. Don't forget to fill out your forms. Do it. Get on it. I'm waiting, okay? See you guys.